One of the most common questions about the Norwegian Bliss is how is the food and experience in the main dining room? The Bliss actually has three main dining rooms: the Manhattan Room, Taste, and Savor. All three share the same exact kitchen, meaning that the menu is similar if not identical across all three. The real difference is more in the vibes. The Manhattan Room is the flagship of the three. It's located on deck 7 at the aft, and it's massive with a grand high ceilings type of feel. It's open from 5 to 9 p.m. But if you want something more intimate for dinner, you can head down to deck 6 for Taste or Savor. Both are significantly smaller and feel more like a local bistro. They open slightly later with hours between 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. Norwegian is famous for its freestyle dining, which means no set dinner times and no assigned tables. You just walk up whenever you're hungry. If you've sailed with Royal or Carnival, you might be used to having the same waiter or waitress every night, but you won't get that consistency here unless you ask for the same waitstaff. But for us, the flexibility was worth the trade-off. The busiest rush is between 6 and 7 p.m., so if you show up right at 5 o'clock or even a little bit early, there's almost no line, and you'll have a much better chance of snagging a table right by the window to watch the beginning of sunset while you eat. The menu follows the standard three-course structure: appetizers, entrees, and desserts. However, Norwegian recently made a controversial change. While you can order as many appetizers and desserts as you want, any extra entree beside your first one now carries a $5 surcharge. It's an unpopular move for what's supposedly complimentary dining, but one workaround you could use is to technically leave and come back later in the night for a second entree for free, but for most people that's more trouble than it's worth. When it comes to the food itself, the experience was a bit of a mixed bag. With the bread service, we found it to be subpar. The rolls weren't particularly fresh or warm, and they only served plain butter, so there's no fancy flavored spreads that you'll find on other cruise lines. The portion sizes were also a little inconsistent. Most appetizers were fine, but we did order a cheese ravioli appetizer that came with exactly 2 pieces, and we were expecting 4 or 5. On the flip side, the entrees were actually quite hearty. They felt larger on average than what I've experienced on Celebrity, which I suppose is a good thing given that Norwegian is charging for extra entrees now. For dessert, my advice is to skip the cakes. They tended to be on the dry side, which is a common problem across all cruises, probably because they're thawed from frozen. Instead, I'd suggest going for options like a mousse, creme brulee, or ice cream. Also, this could have been just my imagination, but I found that the fresh seasonal fruit in the main dining room was consistently better than what was served in the buffet, so consider finishing off your meal with a fresh fruit plate. If you look at the daily rotating menu and nothing jumps out at you, don't feel like you have to settle. There is a classic section on one side of the menu that stays exactly the same every single night of the cruise. So if you're a picky eater or just having one of those nights where you want simple comfort food, you can always fall back on things like roasted chicken breasts, New York strip steak, or the grilled salmon. Most people overlook these because they're considered boring since they always stay the same. However, some of these classic dishes can be more consistent and better prepared than whatever are the featured entrees of the day. While we didn't attempt to try this personally, I've heard from message boards online that the MDR staff is surprisingly flexible when it comes to customizing your order. Since everything is made to order, this means that if you love the starch from one entree but prefer the protein from the other, like swapping out mashed potatoes for the mushroom risotto, they are reportedly happy to accommodate, within reason of course. Finally, a major mistake people make on the Bliss is thinking that the main dining room is only for dinner. On sea days, either Taste or Savor will be open for a full sit-down breakfast and lunch, which also helps alleviate the overcrowdedness at the Garden Cafe buffet. We ate at Taste for breakfast once and Savor for lunch during another day. The disadvantage is a lack of variety that you would get at the Garden Cafe. However, the advantage is that you can get custom-made, say, Eggs Benedict or steak and eggs, without having to fight for a table with a tray in your hand. Overall, I'm giving the Norwegian Bliss main dining experience a letter grade of a B+. It's a step below the refined service you might find on Celebrity or Princess, but the flexibility of the Freestyle system and the solid entree portions make it a great option. If you enjoyed this video, then please like this video and subscribe to my channel, Lost in a Good Place. Thanks for watching.